Do not go to the 5th anniversary of your wedding. Better look in the apartment of your mother-in-law. Such a letter I received on the anniversary of our wedding with Pavel. I thought it was some kind of prank, but still decided to go to my mother-in-law because we had a spare key to her apartment. But when I opened the apartment, I froze for the 10th time trying to figure out who could have written it. It was an anonymous letter, printed on an ordinary piece of paper. No signature, no return address, just a white envelope that I found in our mailbox yesterday. Tomorrow Pavel and I were supposed to celebrate our 5th wedding anniversary. Pavel booked a table at our favorite restaurant. I even bought a new dress. And now I had this strange letter in my hands that turned everything upside down. My first impulse was to show the letter to Pavel, but something stopped me, an inner feeling, a whisper of intuition. Sometimes it's a secret about our marriage. My relationship with my mother-in-law, Aleftina Sergeyevna, was always tense on the outside. She was impeccably polite, always smiled when we met, never openly criticized me, but I could feel her hostility on my skin, in her looks, in her fur coats, in the tone of her voice when she spoke to me. I was worthy of her son, or rather, I was never worthy of her son. Pavel was the only child of Aleftina. Her husband Pavel's father died when his son was only 12 years old, and since then Aleftina Sergeyevna's whole life has been spent in the same family as her son, and I was never a match for her. I was worthy of her son. I was worthy of her son. Pavel was the only child of Aleftina. Her husband Pavel's father died when his son was only 12 years old, and since then Aleftina Sergeyevna's whole life has been devoted to her son. She adored him, she devoted herself to him, she worked 2 jobs so that Pavel could have a good education, and she had a good job. Her life revolved around her son, and when Pavel brought me to the house and introduced me as his bride, something broke in Aleftina. Of course she smiled, she congratulated us. She said the right words, but I could see the pain in her eyes. The pain was the only thing she had in her life, the fear that her son would not be there after the wedding. My mother-in-law lived nearby in her 2-room apartment in an old house. We visited her about once every 2 weeks, sometimes she came to visit us. Everything was quite civilized, and gradually I got used to our relationship, tacitly admitting that we would never become friends. We were really close, but now this letter has turned everything upside down. What kind of secret in my mother-in-law's apartment could we be? I looked at the clock. Pavel was supposed to be back from work in an hour. My mother-in-law was at the dacha now. She went there every Thursday, and a spare key to her apartment in case of emergencies. I bit my lip, torn by doubts. Should I believe an anonymous letter? Should I invade someone else's life? Violate boundaries? But on the other hand, if my mother-in-law's apartment really has something to hide, what would I do? On the other hand, if my mother-in-law really has something stored in her apartment. As for me, my marriage, don't I have the right to know? After a little hesitation, I decided I'll go see my mother-in-law and I won't find anything. No one will even know I was there, and if I do find something. I quickly got ready, took the spare key to my mother-in-law's apartment and left the house all the way to the subway. I was tormented by doubts. I felt like a spy, a thief invading someone else's life, but curiosity and fear were stronger. My mother-in-law's house welcomed me with the silence of the entrance. I went up to the 3rd floor. My heart was pounding in my throat. I put the key in the lock. The door opened silently. I slipped in and closed it quietly behind me. The apartment was silent except for the old clock ticking in the living room. I took off my shoes and tiptoed in. I felt frozen in time. Frozen in time. Old Soviet furniture, heavy curtains, carpets on the walls, everything clean, neat, but as if from another era. Alexandra Sergeevna was conservative in her habits and did not like change. I stopped in the middle of the living room, not knowing where to begin. What exactly I was looking for, where could the secret mentioned in the letter be hidden? I decided to be systematic and started with the desk by the window, carefully opening the drawers, looking through the papers, bills, receipts, old letters, nothing out of the ordinary. Then I moved on to the bedroom closet, clothes neatly hung on hangers, piles of bed linen on shelves. I carefully removed one of them and opened the old photos, documents, Pavel's school notebooks. I flipped through them but found nothing special. Time passed and I still didn't find anything. Maybe the letter was just a stupid joke. A practical joke, but who and why did you have to play me like that? I was about to leave when I noticed something. I was about to leave when I noticed one of the floorboards. It was almost imperceptible but accidentally caught my foot on it and felt it give way as I knelt down. I carefully lifted the floorboard. There was a small space underneath it, a kind of hiding place, and in this hiding place there was a stack of papers tied together with tape. My heart was pounding. I pulled out the papers and untied the tape. The first thing I saw was a piece of paper tied together with a piece of tape, and the first thing I saw was a letter that had been written on it. The first thing I saw was a document with 2 seals and signatures. I ran my eyes over the text and froze. It was a prenuptial agreement between Pavel and me, a contract I had never heard of and definitely did not sign. A shiver ran down my spine. I began to study the document carefully. According to this contract, all property acquired in the marriage during divorce. The worst of it was that the document was signed by me, a signature that I had never given. With trembling hands, I sorted through the rest of the papers, among which were photographs of Pavel with whom? That is, they were taken with a hidden camera, and judging by the quality and the angle, in some of the photos they were holding hands, in others they were embracing, and in one of them they were even kissing. I felt the room begin to spin before my eyes. It couldn't be true. Pavel couldn't cheat on me, couldn't be responsible for my signature on the marriage contract. It had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. But the next document in the pile finally knocked the ground out from under me. It was a partition agreement, according to which Pavel got everything and I had to move out of the apartment within a month. And again my signature, a signature that I did not put. My head was spinning. My throat was getting sick. I sank down on the bed trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Could Pavel, the man I loved for 5 years, the man I shared my life with, be planning to divorce me and leave me with nothing and tell me about it tomorrow? And my mother-in-law obviously knew because the documents were kept in her apartment. Maybe she was even the initiator of all this. Maybe it was she who forged my signatures. She organized the surveillance of Pavel and his mistress. I felt tears running down my face. 5 years of marriage, 5 years that I thought were happy, turned out to be a lie. All this time there was a person next to me who was capable of such betrayal. Suddenly I heard the sound of the front door opening. Then I went into the apartment. Panic struck me. What if this mother-in-law had come back earlier? What if it was Pavel who had come to get the documents? I quickly folded the papers and put them back under the table. Then I looked around for a place to hide. The closet too. Obviously, under the bed was not an option either. In a panic I darted out onto the balcony, drawn by heavy curtains, and hid behind them, praying. I held my breath and pressed myself against the wall behind the curtain. The bedroom door opened and I heard a familiar voice. She wasn't alone. Pavel was with her. Are you sure she won't suspect anything? I don't know. Mom, I think it's too risky. Don't be silly, son. Everything has been thought out to the smallest detail. Tomorrow you will tell her that you want a divorce. Show her the prenuptial agreement and the property settlement agreement. Say that she signed them before the wedding. just without reading the documents, and if he gets nasty, we'll have to kill him. We have photos with Irina. Tell her that you are having an affair on the side, and if she does not agree to our terms, you will tell all her friends and colleagues that she is a cuckold. I do not like all this. Mom, we have been together for 5 years. She does not deserve this, and you deserve to be tied to a woman who cannot even give birth to a child. 5 years have passed and she keeps feeding you promises. Let's wait until we buy a better place. Let's wait until we buy a better apartment. Let's pay off the loan first. And you are already 35. You should think about a narrow continuation of the family. Irina is young and healthy and she wants children. She will give you a son. You will see. I put my hand over my mouth so as not to scream. What I heard was so monstrous that it did not fit in my head. They discussed how to deprive me of all my property, how to defame my name. Maybe I should just talk to her. Explain the situation and what you're going to say. I'm sorry darling, but my mom found me another woman who's going to give me a son, so pack your bags, be a man. Pavel, show some character. She's sucking the juice out of you, she's manipulating you and you don't even want to. You don't even notice, but falsifying documents. Mom is already beyond son. That's when a wife doesn't fulfill her main duty to her husband for 5 years. 5 years she's been leading you on by the nose. How much longer are you going to wait? I heard Pavel sighing heavily. Okay Mom, you're right. Tomorrow I'll tell her everything on the anniversary. That's right, and now let's get the documents. We'll need them tomorrow. I heard my mother-in-law coming. The floorboard, the sound of wood being moved, the rustling of paper. Strange. My mother-in-law's voice sounded tense. My mother-in-law's voice sounded tense. The ribbon was untied and the papers seemed to have been sorted out. Maybe you looked at them yourself and forgot. Pavel suggested. No, I always tie the tape carefully. Someone touched the documents. There was a pause. I felt a cold sweat run down my back. They'll get it when I come, Pavel asked. Maybe someone broke in here. No, everything was locked and nothing was missing as far as I could see. Then maybe you forgot to tie the tape last time. My mother-in-law was silent. Maybe lately I've been absent-minded. Okay, it doesn't matter. The main thing is the documents are in place. Keep them papered from hand to hand. What are we going to do if she goes to the police? Pavel asked. Forgery of documents is a criminal offense. Not to apply, confidently answered her mother-in-law. She is too proud for that. Most likely just pack her things and go to her friend to complain about life, and in a month or two everything will be forgotten. You will file an official application for divorce. The court will divide the property according to the prenuptial agreement and still try to challenge the signatures. I have an expert friend who will confirm the authenticity of the signatures. Don't worry, son. I've thought it all out. I was behind the storm, barely breathing. What I heard was so monstrous that it didn't fit in my head. My husband and my mother-in-law plan to rob me of everything, defame my name, make me look ridiculous, and all for the sake of some Irina who will give birth to Pavel's heir. Okay, Mom, I'm going. Lisa will be home from work soon, and then go, son, and remember, no pity, she doesn't deserve it. I heard them leave the bedroom, footsteps receding down the hall, then the front door slammed and Pavel left, but my mother-in-law. I stood behind the curtain, not knowing what to do next. If I tried to go out, my mother-in-law would find me, but I couldn't stand here forever. Suddenly the phone rang. I heard my mother-in-law walk into the living room to answer it. I tiptoed to the door. The hallway was empty. I could hear my mother-in-law's voice on the phone from the living room. Yes, it's ready tomorrow. He'll tell her everything. No, she doesn't suspect anything. I walked quietly down the hallway to the front door, turning the key carefully, trying not to make a sound. Opened the door enough, but it wasn't there. My heart was beating so hard it felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. My legs were shaking, My hands were trembling. I walked slowly down the stairs and out the front door. It was a warm spring evening outside. People were rushing home from work. Cars were and then in the distance. I couldn't go home. I couldn't meet Pavel. I knew what he was going to do. I took out my cell phone and called my best friend Nastya. Hi, can I come to your place? I need a place to stay. Lisa, what happened to you and Pavel? It's much worse. I can't talk on the phone. I'll tell you when I meet you. Of course, I'll wait for you when I get there. I didn't want Pavel to find me if he suddenly started looking for me on the way to Nastya. I tried to make sense of everything I was learning. 5 years of marriage, which I thought was happy, turned out to be a lie. A person I trusted more than anyone else in the world. He planned to destroy me, and all because I wasn't ready for children. I always said that I wanted them, but not now. I had to pay off the mortgage first, get back on my feet financially. I didn't want our children to grow up in need, like in the old days. My parents divorced when I was 7. My mother raised me alone, barely making ends meet. I didn't want the same fate for my children, but Pavel seemed to understand me, or so I thought. He never pushed me. He never approached me. He always said that we would manage, that it wasn't time yet, and now I find out that behind my back he was discussing with my mother how to get rid of me and replace me with Nastya. I met a more pliable woman with fear in her eyes. She was always a sensitive friend, and now she immediately realized that something serious had happened. My God, Lisa, you don't have a face. What happened? I told her everything, about the letter, about the visit to my mother-in-law's apartment, about the found documents, about the overheard conversation. Nastya was listening and her eyes were getting wider and wider with shock. I can't believe it, she said. When I finished, Pavel always seemed so decent. Who would have thought that he was capable of such meanness? I can't believe it either, I replied and wiped my tears. 5 years, Nastya, 5 years I lived with a man who is capable of such a thing. And what are you going to do now? I shook my head. I don't know anything. I don't know. My head is full of chaos. You should go to the police. Forgery of documents is a criminal offense. And what am I going to say? What is illegal? I broke into my mother-in-law's apartment and found forged documents there. I broke into my mother-in-law's apartment and found forged documents. They can charge me for that. But you can't just let them take everything away from you. You invested in that apartment. You paid for it together with Pavel. I know, but I have no proof. Pavel has the documents and they have my supposed signatures on them. It will be my word against the documents, and as my mother-in-law said, I'm not going to let you do that. In-law said. I thought about it, but someone sent you the letter, someone who knew what was going on and wanted to warn you. Maybe that person can help you. I shook my head. The letter was anonymous. I have no idea who could have sent it. Maybe it was Irina. Maybe she found out that Pavel was married. Maybe she found out that Pavel was married and decided to warn you. I don't think so. From what I've heard, she's in complete collusion with them. She needs Pavel and his money. We sat in silence, thinking about the situation outside the window. It was dark, the city lights came on, my phone was turned off on the table. As if I could turn the phone on, said Nastya. Pavel probably thought that she was the only one who could help him. Nastya said. Pavel was probably worried. Let him worry. I replied bitterly. E of what he planned, it's the least he deserves. But Nastya was right. I couldn't hide forever. Sooner or later I'll have to face Pavel and decide what to do next. I turned on the phone immediately. Notifications about missed calls and messages from Pavel came pouring in. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? I am worried. Call as soon as you see the message. Worried that his plan might go awry. The phone rang in my hands. Pavel won't answer, said Pavel. Said I'm not ready to talk to him yet, but you have to decide hide something you can't hide from me forever." She was right. I needed a planned strategy. The first thing I needed was to protect myself. If Pavel had forged documents with me, I had to prove with my signatures that they were forged. But as an expert examination. But my mother-in-law said she knew an expert. So you need to find an independent expert, and preferably more than one. An independent expert, and preferably more than one. You need to prove that I did not sign those papers. Then you need to deal with the apartment. I invested a lot of money in it, about paying the mortgage. This can be used as proof that I have the right to part of the property. And finally, I need to find out who sent me that letter. Someone knew about the plans of Pavel and my mother-in-law and wanted to warn me. I know what I have to do. I said, "Nastya, tomorrow I'll go to the bank. I'll get a statement of all my mortgage payments. Then I'll find a good lawyer and a chart expert. I have to prepare for war. This is serious." "Lisa, are you sure you don't want to just talk to Pavel? Maybe it's all a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding? I heard with my own ears how they discussed how to rob me of everything and put me on the street, how to humiliate me in front of friends and colleagues by showing photos of Pavel with his mistress." "What a misunderstanding." Nastya sighed. "That the person you lived with for 5 years is capable of such a thing is also hard to believe." I couldn't believe it. But I heard them with my own ears. They didn't know I was there. There was no point in pretending. The phone rang again. Pavel again. I hung up and wrote a short message. "I'm at Nastya's, everything's fine with me. Don't call again." The answer came immediately. "What happened? Why are you at Nastya's? Tomorrow is our anniversary." I didn't answer. What could I say? That I know about his plans, that I overheard his conversation with my mother-in-law. No. I couldn't show it to her. No. I couldn't show my cards in advance. "Let's go to bed," suggested Nastya. Nastya suggested. "It's late, and tomorrow you need a clear head." She made a bed for me on the couch in Gostino, gave me a clean towel and pajamas, but I could not sleep. I lay there looking at the ceiling, replaying in my mind the events of the day. How could this happen? How could this happen? How could the person I loved for 5 years turn out to be such a monster? And maybe I misunderstood everything. Maybe there is an explanation for all this. No, it can't be. I heard them with my own ears. Everything was very clear. In the morning I woke up with a headache and the feeling that everything that happened yesterday was terrible. Everything that happened yesterday was a terrible dream, but reality quickly returned as soon as I looked at the phone full of messages from you. "Answer, I'll come to Nastya. If you don't answer, please tell me what happened." And the last one sent about an hour ago. "I am going to Nastya's. I need to talk to you." I showed the message to Nastya, who just came out of the bedroom. "Damn, he'll be here soon. What are we going to do?" I thought. Part of me wanted to run, hide, not see Pavel, but the other part wanted to look him in the eye. "I'll talk to him," I decided, "but I won't tell him what I know about his plans. Let him think I'm just upset about something else. I need time to gather evidence and prepare." Nastya nodded. "I'll be there if you need support." We had barely eaten breakfast when the doorbell rang. Nastya went to answer it and I stayed at the table, trying to keep my hands from shaking. Pavel came into the kitchen, excited, with dark circles under his eyes, as if he hadn't been there before. His eyes looked as if he hadn't slept all night. When he saw me, he rushed to the table. "Lisa, what happened? Why did you leave without saying a word?" I was crazy with worry. I looked at him and didn't recognize him. "I was discussing with my mother how to rob me of everything and put me on the street." "Is this the same person who he wanted to show me pictures with his mistress if I didn't agree to his terms?" "I needed to be alone," I said, trying to keep my voice normal. "Think about what happened, Lisa." I looked at Nastya, who was standing in the doorway of the kitchen, ready to come to my aid at any moment. "Can you leave us for a minute?" I asked her. Nastya nodded and left. but I knew she would be next to the door. So what happened? Pavel repeated and sat down across from me. I took a deep breath. I just realized that you and I want different things out of life. Pavel frowned. What are you talking about? We all always wanted the same things. Really? What about the kids? You want them now and I want to wait until we are back on our feet. And his face changed, but only for a moment. Then he smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. It's because of that, Lisa. I never pushed you with the kids. I always said we'll make it. We still have time. Yeah. I realized that I had said too much. He might have guessed that I knew something. I should have been more careful. Nothing. I just think that you're not happy that we have different priorities. Pavel sighed. Lisa, I don't understand where this is coming from. Yesterday everything was fine. We were going to celebrate our anniversary, and today you're saying that we're too different. Something should have happened. Someone told you something? I shook my head. No one. I didn't say anything. I was just thinking about our life, our future, and decided to run away from home without an explanation. Lisa, this isn't like you. You've always been straightforward, always said what was on your mind, and now suddenly you're starting to play some games. I felt anger growing inside of me. He still dares to talk to me about games? He who planned to destroy me behind my back. I don't play games, Pavel. I'm just not sure if we want the same things out of life. Today is our anniversary, Lisa. 5 years together, and instead of celebrating you run away from home and tell me that we want different things. It's like a bad movie. What happened? In fact, I looked at him, the man I have lived with for 5 years, and I didn't recognize him. How could he stand in front of me and pretend to care about me when just a few hours ago he was discussing with his mother how to rob me of everything? Nothing happened, Pavel. I'm just an ass. I was thinking about our life, about our future, and I needed some space to think about what you were up to. I sighed. Nothing yet. I need some more time. Okay, he nodded. I'll give you some time, but let's at least spend today together. It's still our anniversary. We've booked a table at the restaurant. I made you a present like before, and then you'll decide what's next. Part of me wanted to shout in his face that I knew everything that I knew about his plans, about forged documents, about his mistress, but the other, more rational part understood that I needed time to gather evidence, to prepare for war, and if I showed my cards now, I would lose the advantage. Let's spend tonight together, but I'm not ready to go home yet. I need to be alone. Pavel nodded, but I noticed something strange in his eyes: worry, fear, suspicion. Okay, I'll pick you up tonight at 7 o'clock. I heard him say goodbye to Nastya in the hall. Then the front door slammed. Nastya returned to the kitchen. Well, how did he not suspect anything? I think he invited me to celebrate the anniversary, and you agreed? Nastya sounded surprised. Yes. I need time to prepare, collect evidence, find a lawyer. I don't want him to, and if he tells you everything today, if he shows you fake documents as planned, I thought about it. Then I will pretend to be shocked. I will deny that I signed anything. I will ask for time to think, and in the meantime I will collect evidence. Nastya shook her head. This is a dangerous game, Lisa. He may suspect something. I know, but I am not ready for an open confrontation. Not now. We spent the day discussing a plan of action. I called the bank and made an appointment to get a statement for all mortgage payments. Found the contacts of several family law lawyers and experts in. I took a shower, washed my hair, put on the new dress I had bought especially for our anniversary. Nastya looked at me worriedly. Are you sure you can handle this, that you can act as if you don't know anything? I replied, although inside everything was shaking with fear and uncertainty. I have no choice. I have to buy time at 7. Oh, the doorbell rang. Pavel arrived. He looked nervous but tried to smile. In his hands he had a bouquet of my favorite lilies. Happy anniversary, he said, holding out the flowers. Thank you. I took the bouquet and tried not to show how my hands were shaking. They're beautiful. You are beautiful too, I smiled. although inside everything was screaming with pain and betrayal. How could he stand in front of me with flowers and compliments, knowing what he was going to do? We said goodbye. Pavel opened the car door and helped me to sit down, as he always did, years ago. When he drove me to our first date in a restaurant, we were greeted with a buffet. Pavel had booked a table in advance and we were led to a secluded corner where a bottle of champagne was already waiting in a bucket of water ice. 5 years, said Pavel, raising a glass. I raised my glass, trying not to betray my true feelings. 5 years. We clinked glasses and drank. I looked at Pavel over the glass and thought, how long will this game last? When he decided to show me fake documents. When he started blackmailing me with photos of him with his mistress. But the evening passed and Pavel didn't talk about any of that. He was attentive, nice, asked about my work and future plans as if yesterday's conversation with my mother-in-law had never happened. Maybe he decided to postpone the unpleasant conversation. Maybe before you ruin my life. After dinner, Pavel suggested we take a walk along the embankment. The evening was warm and starry. We walked along the river holding hands like a normal happy couple celebrating an anniversary. What are you thinking? I answered honestly, about our life, about our future. And what do you think about our future? I stopped and turned to him. I don't know why. Sometimes I think we want different things, that we are going different ways. I looked at him, at the man I had lived with for 5 years and didn't seem to know at all. Just a feeling, an intuition. Pavel took me by the shoulders. Lisa, I don't know what made you think that, but I love you. I've always loved you and I'll always love you. Words that would have made my heart sing with happiness now sounded like a cruel mockery. How could he talk about love when he planned to destroy me? I want to give you something. I was going to give it to you in a restaurant, but I think now is the right time. I took the box with trembling hands and opened it. Inside was a ring I had shown him once in a magazine and said it was my perfect ring. I couldn't find the words. Yes, that ring. I remembered how much you admired it and wanted to surprise you. I looked at the ring and didn't understand what was going on. Why give such an expensive gift to the woman you were going to leave? Why invest in a relationship? I said, not knowing what else to say. Will you try it on perfectly? I nodded and Pavel put the ring on my finger. It fit perfectly. Perfect. Just like you, he said with a smile. I looked at the ring, at his smile and felt everything inside bursting with conflicting emotions, love, pain, betrayal, hope. What if I was wrong? What if I misunderstood the conversation I overheard? What if it was all some monstrous misunderstanding? No, I couldn't have misunderstood. The words were very clear. You'll tell her you want a divorce. Show her the prenuptial agreement and the property settlement agreement. Tell her she signed them before the wedding. Just without reading those words to your mother-in-law played over and over in my head. Don't you like it? Pavel asked, noticing my thoughtfulness. No. This ring is beautiful. I just wasn't expecting it. I wanted to surprise you, show you how much you mean to me. I smiled, trying to make the smile look sincere. Thank you. This is the best gift I've ever received. We continued our walk, but now my head was in chaos. Why is Pavel giving it an expensive ring? For me, if you're with me, it didn't make sense to get a divorce unless he was trying to bribe me, to cajole me before he hit me, to make me feel guilty for not agreeing to his terms. What do you think? Pavel asked again. About us. About our future. And what do you see in our future? I looked at him, trying to see in his eyes. I don't know the truth. I really don't know, and I know, he said confidently. I see us together always until the end. His words sounded sincere. But how could I believe him now? knowing that he was discussing with his mother how to get rid of me. And what about the children? I asked you directly. You always said that. Of course, Lisa, we always said that we would pay the mortgage first, get back on our feet, and then think about the children. I haven't changed my mind, really. And your mother, she thinks so, too. His face changed, but only for a moment. What does my mother have to do with it? This is our decision, not hers. Are you sure? Because sometimes I think she has too much. I don't understand what all these questions are about. My mother, of course, worries about us, wants grandchildren, but she has never interfered in our affairs, and certainly does not tell me what to do. Does not tell me what to do. I almost laughed in his face. Does not interfere, does not dictate to me. From everything I heard yesterday, I just want to make sure that we are on the same side, that we make decisions together and not under the influence of other people. Of course we are on the same side. We have always been and will always be on the same side, you and I against the whole world. Remember, I remember that was our phrase from the very beginning of the relationship, you and I against the whole world. But now those words sounded like a cruel mockery. I remember. I replied quietly. We reached the end of the embankment and turned back. The evening was beautiful, starry, warm, the perfect evening for the anniversary. If not for the heaviness in my heart, if not for the knowledge that it was all a lie. Let's go home, Pavel suggested. As we returned to the car, I shook my head. I'm not ready yet. You can take me back to Nastya. He looked disappointed but nodded. Of course, if it makes you feel better. We drove in silence. I looked out the window at the city passing by and thought about our life, about our future. 5 years together, 5 years that I thought were happy, and now it was all a lie. It was always a lie. When will you come home? Pavel asked, stopping the car at Nastya's house. I don't know. I need time to think about what to think. Lisa, what is going on here? I don't understand. I looked at him. How could he stand in front of me and pretend that he didn't understand when he was planning to destroy me? I just need time, I repeated. Time to sort out my feelings. Pavel sighed. Okay. I'll give you time, but know that I love you, no matter what happens. No matter what you decide, I will always love you. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and got out of the car. Pavel waited until I entered the entrance and only then left. Nastya met me with fear in her eyes. So, how did it go? Weird. He gave it to me, and all the time he was talking about love, about the future, not a word about divorce, about documents, about something like that. Nastya Prisvina, seeing the ring, it must be worth a fortune. Why give it if you plan to get divorced? That's what I'm trying to understand. Nothing works, Nastya. I heard with my own ears how they discussed with my mother-in-law how to get rid of me, but today he was just the perfect husband, attentive, loving, as if there had been no conversation yesterday. Maybe he changed his mind after that conversation. I shook my head. He told me everything. Maybe he was afraid of your reaction, afraid that you wouldn't forgive him, or maybe it's all part of his plan. Maybe he's trying to lull me. Nastya sighed. I don't know, Lisa, it's all so confusing. But what are you going to do now? What you planned for tomorrow? I'm going to the bank to get a statement of payments, then to the lawyer. I'll prepare for the worst, I hope for the best. For the worst, I hope for the best. And with Pavel, what will you say to him? I will tell him that I need more time, that I love him, but I have to sort myself out. We sat with Nastya for a long time, discussing the situation, trying to find an explanation for Pavel's strange behavior. But nothing worked. Everything was fine, too confusing, too contradictory. In the morning I woke up with a headache and the feeling that I was completely confused, but I knew that I could sit and wonder forever. I needed concrete actions, concrete steps. I had breakfast with Nastya, then I went to the bank, where I got a statement of all mortgage payments. As I expected, Most of the payments were made from my card. I had proof that I invested in the apartment no less or even more than Pavel. Then I went to consult the lawyer I found yesterday. It was a middle-aged woman with intelligent eyes and a resolute attitude. I told her the whole story about the letter, the forged documents, about the overheard conversation. She listened attentively, occasionally made notes in a notebook. "The situation is not easy," she said when I finished, "especially considering the fact that you can't produce these forged documents. Your husband has them, and most likely he will show them only when he is ready to start divorce proceedings. What should I do first? We need proof that you did not sign these documents. Do you have any?" I took my passport and the mortgage agreement with the bank out of my bag. "Here is my signature." The lawyer studied the documents well. "That will help now. We need a handwriting expert to confirm that the signatures on these documents are not yours, but for that we need to see the documents themselves, and when the husband files for divorce, he will present these documents in court, and if they are not yours, they will be signed by you. And if the husband files for divorce and they present these documents in court, then we will act. We will demand an expert examination of the signatures. We will show proof that you invested in the apartment, but most importantly, we need to prove that your husband and his mother planned this in advance, that they were preparing to forge documents. And how are we going to prove that?" The lawyer thought about it. "Yes, it's at my house." "Okay. It might be useful." "Proof also. You mentioned that you overheard the conversation. If we had a recording of that conversation it would be perfect proof, but I don't have a recording. I didn't expect to hear this and I didn't have a dictaphone with me." "I understand. Then we will have to act differently. When your husband presents these documents, we will be ready to challenge them. We will have an expert who will confirm that there will be proof that you invested in the apartment. My testimony will not always be enough, but in combination with other evidence it can carry weight, especially if we find something else that corroborates your version. For example, if we find someone who can confirm that your husband and his mother discussed this plan with someone else." I thought about it. "I don't know who could confirm it, but I do know who could know about their plans. The person who sent me the letter, someone who knew that if we find that person, he can be a key witness." "But how?" "To find the anonymous sender." The letter was unsigned, without a return address, who could know about the plans of Pavel and his mother-in-law and wanted to warn me. Suddenly it dawned on me, Irina, Pavel's mistress. Maybe it was she who sent me the letter. Maybe she found out about their plans. And this is possible, especially if she didn't know that your husband was married and found out about it. She might feel betrayed and decide to warn you. But how do I find her? I don't even know her last name, just her first name. If she works with your husband, like you said, then it shouldn't be too hard to check social networks, the company's employee list. I nodded. "I'll try." "But what if it wasn't her who sent the email? What if it was someone else? Then we'll have to look for other clues. Maybe there were fingerprints on the envelope. Maybe someone saw this email being dropped in your mailbox." We discussed a few more possible strategies, and I felt like I was getting a plan, something concrete to hold on to, something that gave me something to do. But after consulting with my lawyer I went back to Nastia. She was at work and I took advantage of this to think calmly and develop a plan of action. The first thing I needed to do was to find Irina. I opened my laptop and logged into social networks. Pavel worked for the construction company Stroygarant and I started a lawsuit among the employees of this company with the name Irina. There were several of them time I looked through their profiles trying to find some clues of a connection with Pavel, and here on the page of one of them, Irina Volkova, I saw a photo where she was standing next to Pavel at some corporate event. Standing next to Pavel at some company party. They were smiling, standing close to each other. Nothing special, but something in their poses, in their looks spoke of more closeness than just a colleague. I looked at other photos of Irina. A young attractive woman about my age. In her profile it was indicated that she worked in Stroy-Garant Financial Analysts. There were also other photos of company parties. On some of them Pavel appeared again, always next to Irina, always with a smile. Could she be the Irina her mother-in-law was talking about? The one who is young, healthy, and wants children? I decided to write to the right away. Without delay I sent a short message. Hello Irina. You don't know me, but I need to talk to you. It's about Pavel Sokolov. The reply came almost immediately. Who are you? And I don't know what you're talking about, Pavel. My colleague. Nothing more. I know about your relationship and I know about the plans of Pavel and his mother. I need to talk to you again in person. Pause longer then. Okay, where and when? We agreed to meet in an hour in a cafe near the Stroy-Garant office. I quickly packed my things and went there, not knowing if Irina would be honest with me, if she would admit to her relationship with Pavel, and most importantly, if she knew about Pavel and my mother-in-law's plans to rob me of everything. At this time of day I took a table in the corner where I could see her clearly. I recognized her from the photos. In real life she looked even more attractive, tall, slim with a confident walk and a clear face. She looked around, noticed me and went to my table. I stood up to say hello Lisa. I'm Irina. Thank you for coming. I shook her hand, noting the strong, confident handshake. We sat down. Irina looked tense but collected. She looked straight at me, not taking her eyes off me. That's how she started. You wanted to talk about Pavel and about you and about the plans you're making together? I don't understand what you're talking about. Pavel and I don't have any plans. We're colleagues and nothing else. But his mother thinks otherwise. She thinks that you're young, healthy and want to have children, that you'll give him an heir. Yesterday, in her apartment, they were talking about how to get rid of me, how to rob me of everything, and how Pavel was going to start a new life with you. Irina looked at me with undisguised shock. I don't know anything about it. Yes, Pavel and I had a relationship. But he told me that everything was over between you, that you were only living together formally. I did not know that he was planning something like this. Now it was my turn to be surprised. He told you that we are living together only formally, that we are getting divorced soon. Yes, he said that you have not loved each other for a long time, that you have only been together. I shook my head in disbelief. This is a lie, a complete lie. Until yesterday I thought we had a happy marriage. I loved him. I thought he loved me too. Irina looked shocked. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. If I knew he was married, that I had a boyfriend and that he was married, I would never believe you. But now you know the truth and so do I. Pavel lied to us both. We sat in silence, both shocked, both betrayed by the same man. When did this start? I finally asked about your relationship with Pavel. Irina sighed. About a year ago, he came to me with a question about the financial report. We started talking. Then we started having lunch together. Then he invited me to dinner, said that he was divorcing his wife, that he needed moral support. I sympathized with him. He seemed so sincere, so vulnerable. And you believed him? Yes, I believed him like a fool. We both believed him. We both turned out to be fools. Irina shook her head. I can't believe that he planned to take everything from you. It's not like the Pavel I know. It's not like the Pavel I know or thought I knew. And what you're going to do now, I don't know. Gather evidence, Prepare for war. For the war I will not let him and his mother touch my life. Irina. I will help you in any way I can. I have a message from him where he writes that you will soon be divorced. There are photos. There are witnesses who saw us together. I can provide all this, thank you. This can be very useful, but there is something else that I would like to know. What exactly? You did not accidentally send me an anonymous letter. Don't go to the 5th anniversary of your wedding. Better look in your mother-in-law's apartment. Irina looked at me in surprise. No, why should I do that? I didn't even know about your anniversary. I sighed. So it wasn't her. Then who knew about the plans of Pavel and his mother, who wanted to warn me? I don't know, but it must be someone close to them, who knew about us. Someone close to them who knew. We sat with Irina for a long time, discussing the situation, sharing information about Pavel, about his lies, about his double life, and the more we talked, the more I realized that the person I lived with for 5 years, whom I trusted, whom I loved, was completely different from the person I thought he was. Irina gave me her number. I thanked her and went home to Nastya with a strange feeling of relief. Now I had allies. Now I had proof. Now I could fight at home. Nastya was waiting for me when I got back from work. I told her about the meeting with Irina. I can't believe that Pavel is capable of such a thing, of leading a double life for a whole year. I can't believe it either, but the facts speak for themselves. He lied to me, he lied to her. He planned to rob me of everything and start a new life. I got my phone out. I'm going to talk to him first. I want to look him in the eye. I want to hear what he's going to say to my face. I dialed Pavel's number. He answered almost immediately, as if he was waiting for my call. Lisa. At last I was there. Hi Pavel. We need to talk. You can come to Nastya. Of course I'll be right there. Something happened. Yes, something happened. I hung up the phone and looked at Nastya. He's on his way. I want you to be there when I talk to him. I don't want to be alone with him. Nastya nodded. Of course I'll be there. But are you sure you want me to be there? I want to do it now. I want to hear what he has to say. I want to see his face when he realizes that his game is up. We wait. The time passes slowly and I walk nervously around the room, replaying in my head the words I am going to say to Pavel. The words I am going to say to Pavel. How I am going to accuse him of lying, of betraying him. How I am going to tell him. Finally the doorbell rang. Pavel arrived. Nastya went to answer it and I stayed in the living room gathering my courage. Pavel came in looking worried. Lisa, what's wrong? Are you okay? I looked at him. At the man with whom I lived for 5 years. How could he stand in front of me and pretend to care for me when he was planning to destroy me? Sit down, Pavel. We need to talk. He sat down across from me and Nastya sat down next to me, ready to come to my rescue at any moment. I know about your plans to rob me of everything. I know about the forged documents. I know about Irina. I know about your collusion with your mother. Pavel's face changed. He paled, then blushed. What are you talking about? What documents? What Irina? Don't pretend you don't understand. I was in your mother's apartment. I saw the marriage contract with my forged signature. I was in your mother's apartment. I saw the marriage contract with my forged signature. I heard your conversation with your mother, discussing how to rob me of everything and put me out on the street. Pavel looked shocked. You were in my mother's apartment, listening to our conversation. And you heard more than enough. No pity, she doesn't deserve it. That's what your mother said, and you agreed. You agreed to rob me of everything, to humiliate me, to put me out on the street, and all for the sake of what? For the sake of Irina, who is young, healthy and about to give birth. My God, Lisa, you've got it all wrong. It's not like that at all. But how else can you understand your mother's words that I'm not fulfilling my primary duty to my husband? How else can you understand your agreement to show me forged documents and blackmail me with photos with Irina? I didn't agree. I told my mother that I don't want to do this, that I don't like this plan, but in the end you agreed. Okay, Mom, you're right. Tomorrow I'll tell her everything. On the anniversary of your words, Pavel, I heard them with my own ears. Pavel looked as if he'd been hit. Yes. I said it, but only to get her to leave me alone. I never. What about Irina? The one you've been having an affair with for a year now, the one you told me we were living together only formally and would soon be divorced. Pavel paled even more. Have you talked to Irina? Yes. Today we had a very informative conversation. She told me about your affair, about your lies, about your promises. It turns out that you lied not only to me but also to her. Pavel looked completely broken. Lisa, I can explain everything. This is not what you think but what I should think, that my husband, with whom I lived for 5 years, whom I loved and trusted, cheated on me for a year with another woman and then planned to rob me of everything and put me on the street. What else should I think? No, it's not like that. Yes, I had an affair with Irina. I lied to you, that's true, but I never planned to put you on the street. I lied to you. That's true. But I never planned to rob you of anything or blackmail you. It's all Mum's. It's her plan, not mine, but you agreed to it. You agreed to show me forged documents. You agreed to her plan. Yes, I agreed, but only in words, just to get her behind me. I never intended to do that. Never. I looked at him, trying to figure out if he was telling the truth, if he was really just agreeing with his mother without going through with her plan, or if this was just another lie, another attempt to get out of it. And what? And what about the ring? Why did you give me the ring if you were planning to divorce me? Pavel sighed. Because I was having an affair with Irina. Yes. I lied to you, but for the last few months, I have been trying to end it, trying to find a way to stop it all and get back to a normal life with you. And that is why yesterday you were discussing with your mother how to take everything away from me, so you agreed to show me forged documents? No. I did not agree to that. I just said what she wanted to hear. Mom, she's been strange lately, obsessed with the idea of grandchildren, the idea of having all of you, and she always thought that I made the wrong choice. And when I started to resist her pressure about children, she became completely unbearable. She started constantly saying that you were manipulating me, that you didn't want children out of selfishness, that you were wasting my best years. I looked at Pavel, unable to believe his words. 5 years of marriage, and only now do I find out. 5 years of marriage, and only now I find out that my mother-in-law hates me so much that she's willing to forge documents just to destroy our marriage. And you've been silent all this time, letting your mother make plans for my destruction and saying nothing to me. Pavel lowered his eyes. I thought I could handle it myself, that I could convince her that this is just a phase. She's been difficult before but never to this extent, and Irina is her phase too. He sighed. Irina. This is my mistake, my weakness. This is my fault, my weakness. It started when we were both going through that difficult period. Remember when I lost my promotion and you were working late? I felt we were drifting apart and Irina was there to listen and support us. At first we just talked. Then things went too far and you lied to her. I was confused, Lisa. I was confused by my own lies, and the documents are forged signatures, which is part of your confusion, too. Pavel shook his head. I swear I didn't know anything about this until yesterday. I thought she was talking about how to break up with Irina, how to save our marriage. And yesterday she showed me these documents and said that now I'm free of you. I looked at him, trying to understand if he was telling the truth. His eyes were full of pain and remorse. But could I believe it again after everything I had learned and what you were going to do next after your mother showed you those documents? I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know. A part of me wanted to tell you everything, admit everything. Another part of me was afraid that you wouldn't forgive me, that I would lose you forever. A third part of me was afraid that I would lose you forever. Pavel looked up at me. Because I love you, Lisa. Despite all my mistakes, despite the betrayal, I wanted to start over. I wanted to go back to what we had, that pure present. The feeling was an attempt at redemption, even though I know how stupid that sounds right now. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Part of me wanted to believe him, wanted to forgive him. But the other part screamed that this was just another lie, just another manipulation. How do I know you're telling the truth? How do I know this isn't just another? Maybe you know that I have been lying to you for too long to ask for your trust now, but I swear to you, Lisa, I never meant to hurt you. I never meant to rob you of anything. I was just confused and too weak to admit everything and ask for help. We sat in silence. Nastya, who was sitting quietly next to me all the time, finally decided to intervene. If this is what you want. I looked at Pavel and waited for an answer. I took them away so that she could not use them herself, so that she could not harm Lisa. I wanted to destroy them. And where are they now? I asked. In my car, in the glove compartment. I exchanged glances with Nastya. I want to see them. I want to make sure that these are the same documents I saw in your mother's apartment. Pavel nodded. Of course, I'll get them now. He got up and left the apartment. Nastya and I were left alone. Alone. Do you believe him? She asked. I don't know. To think that this is all his mother's machinations, that he is a victim of circumstances. But another part of me remembers that he cheated on me for a year. Lied to me for a year. How can I trust him again? And if he is telling the truth, I sighed, even if that's how much was ruined. His betrayal, his lies, I'm not sure I can forgive him. Pavel returned a few minutes later with a folder in his hand. He put it on the table in front of me. I opened the folder, and inside were the same papers I'd seen in the cache, a marriage contract with my forged signature, a property settlement agreement, photos of Pavel and Irina, and another document I hadn't seen before, a medical report in the name of Alevtina Sergeyevna Sokolova, a diagnosis. Paranoid personality disorder, date 3 months ago. What is this? I looked up at Pavel. Mom is sick. Lisa is seriously ill. She was diagnosed with paranoid personality disorder 3 months ago. The doctor said that she had most likely been suffering from it for years, but now the condition has worsened. She became suspicious, began to see enemies everywhere, especially in you too. Reread. Why didn't you tell me? I was afraid that it would affect your attitude towards her, towards us. Afraid that you would start feeling sorry for her or vice versa. Afraid that it would destroy our marriage. Instead you let her go this far. I swear to you, Lisa, I didn't know about the forged documents until yesterday. I knew she didn't like you, that she was suspicious and mistrustful. But I never imagined that she would do such a thing. I leaned back in my chair and tried to make sense of everything I had heard. My mother-in-law's illness could explain it. Your mother also forced you to cheat on me. Pavel shook his head. No. This is all my fault, my weakness, my betrayal. I have no one to blame but myself. And how long have you known about the mother's diagnosis? 3 months after she was diagnosed. She refused treatment at first. She said, "What's all this?" I thought she was getting better until yesterday. When I looked at the photos, Pavel and Irina were together in different places, in a cafe, in the park, near an office building on Nekotree Street. They were just talking, others were holding hands, kissing. Who took these photos? I asked. I have no idea. I only found out about them yesterday when my mother showed them to me. She said that she had hired a private investigator to follow me, that she wanted to collect evidence that I was unhappy with you. I studied the photos carefully. Something was wrong in them, something did not add up, and suddenly I realized that in all the photos it was that Pavel was wearing the same clothes, a dark blue sweater and jeans. All the photos were taken on the same day, just from different angles in different places. Pavel, do you remember that day when you and Irina were together and you were wearing that blue sweater? He frowned when he looked at the photos. Yes, I remember it. It was about 2 weeks ago. We had lunch together. That was the day I told her that it was over, that I couldn't live a lie anymore, that I wanted to save our marriage. You broke up with her 2 weeks ago? Yes, I told her that I loved her, that I couldn't lie to her anymore. She was upset. Of course. But she understood, said that she always felt that I wasn't being completely honest with her. I remembered my conversation with Irina. She said that she and Pavel had an affair but did not specify whether it was still going on. She only said that Pavel had promised her a divorce and that he was married and happily married. Why then? Irina told me that you had promised her that you would divorce me if you broke up with her 2 weeks ago. Pavel looked confused. I really told her that something like that before, when I thought that our relationship with you had reached a dead end, but then I realized that I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave you, and I told her about it. 2 weeks ago. I looked at the photos again. On one of them, where Pavel and Irina were kissing in the background, there was a banner. If you broke up with her that day, then why are you kissing in this photo? Paul took the photo, studied it. It was a goodbye kiss. We met and talked and I told her it was over and she accepted but asked for one last kiss as a keepsake. His explanation didn't sound convincing. Too many coincidences, too many oddities. But on the other hand, the medical report about my mother-in-law's illness looked real, and the fact that all the photos were taken on the same day also suggested a long novel about a meeting that sent me a letter. Pavel, who wrote me not to go to the anniversary, but to look in your mother's apartment. I do not know. I swear. This is the first time I hear about this letter from you. I thought, if not Irina or Pavel, then who knew about my mother-in-law's plans, who wanted to warn me? And suddenly it dawned on me. Your father, I said. Your father died when you were 12, but your mother-in-law has a sister, a brother. Pavel shook his head. My mother has no close relatives. She was an only child. All her parents, uncles, aunts are long dead, and her friends and neighbors who would know about her plans. My mother was always reserved, especially after the death of her father. She has practically no friends with neighbors she barely greets. It was a dead end. If not Irina, not Pavel, and not some relative or friend of my mother-in-law, then who could send me a letter? Wait, Pavel said. My mother has a friend, or rather an ex-girlfriend. They worked together for many years, but then they quarreled. Tamara Petrovna lives next door. My mother sometimes goes to see her. They drink tea, discuss the news. Maybe she knows something. Do you think your mother could have told her friend about the plans to do the paperwork and put me on the street? If her condition worsened, she could have recently become less cautious, more open in her statements. It was like the truth. If my mother, well, how do we find this Tamara Petrovna? I know where she lives. I can take you to her right now. I wondered if I should trust Pavel after all that had happened, if I should go somewhere with him, but if I want to know the truth, I have no other choice. All right. But Nastya will come with us. Pavel nodded. Of course, whatever you say. We packed up and drove to my mother-in-law's house. Tamara Petrovna lived in the next entrance according to Pavel. On the way I thought about everything I had learned. Could my mother-in-law really be mentally ill? Could Pavel tell the truth about not using forged documents? And who? Pavel rang the doorbell of Tamara Petrovna's apartment. The door was opened by an elderly woman with kind eyes and grey hair tied up in a neat bun. Pavel, what are you doing here? Something happened to Aleftina? No, Tamara Petrovna and my mother are fine. We came to talk to you. This is my wife, Liza, and her friend Nastya. Tamara Petrovna looked at me carefully. So this is who you are, Liza. Aleftina told me so much about you. Come in. Don't stand on the threshold. We entered the apartment, as old and cozy as my mother-in-law's. Tamara Petrovna led us to the kitchen, sat us at the table, began to fuss with tea. Tamara Petrovna, Pavel began, we came to ask you a question. You? Didn't you write Lisa an anonymous letter asking her to look into my mother's apartment instead of celebrating our anniversary? Tamara Petrovna froze at the stove, then slowly turned to us. No, I didn't write any letters. And what happened? I decided to take the initiative, Tamara Petrovna. I went to my mother-in-law's apartment and found documents with forged signatures, documents that Aleftina Sergeyevna had prepared to take away all my property during the divorce she was planning for Pavel and me. Pavel asked. Of course, she knew. She told me herself when she was diagnosed, said that the doctors were wrong, that she was perfectly fine, but I saw what was wrong with her. Something is wrong. She became suspicious all the time, said that Lisa was cheating on you, that she wanted to take all your money, that she didn't love you. I tried to reason with her, said that it was all her fault. I asked Tamara Petrovna, she shook her head. No, she didn't talk about it, although there was a strange conversation about a month ago. She asked me if I knew. Some good artist said she wanted to make a portrait of Pavel as a child from a photograph. I thought it was just another one of hers. I gave her my nephew's phone number. He draws his nephew quite well. Pavel asked him what his name was. Sergei Petrov. He is an artist, works in an advertising agency, sometimes takes private commissions, and he could do it with a signature? Nastya asked. Tamara Petrovna shrugged her shoulders. I don't know, he's talented. Maybe he could do it. But why would he do it? Maybe Aleftina Sergeyevna didn't tell him it's him who's forging, I suggested. Maybe she said it's just a handwriting sample for some gift or surprise. Quite possible. Tamara Petrovna nodded. Sereza the gullible could not have suspected anything. And you are sure that you didn't write me a letter? Maybe you knew about Aleftina Sergeyevna's plans and wanted to warn me. Tamara Petrovna shook her head. No, baby, I didn't write you any letters. If I had known about Aleftina's plans, I would have talked to her, tried to reason with her, or told Pavel directly. Why all this trouble with anonymous letters? She was right, it didn't make sense. If Tamara Petrovna wanted to warn me, she could have made it easier. But then who sent the letter? Maybe it was Sergei, Pavel suggested. Maybe he realized that his mother was asking him to do something illegal and decided to warn you. But how did he find out my address? How did I find out about our anniversary? Aleftina could tell, Tamara Petrovna suggested. She always remembered such dates and knew your address. Of course you have a phone number, Sergei, Pavel asked. We could talk to him. Pavel asked if we could talk to him to clarify the situation. Tamara Petrovna nodded. Of course, I'll find it now. She left the kitchen, leaving us alone. We looked at each other in silence. Everything became even more confusing, but maybe we were on the right track to solving the problem. Tamara Petrovna returned with the phone in her hand. Here is Sereza's number. He should be at home now. He has a day off today. Pavel wrote down the number and thanked Tamara. Thank you for your help. I said goodbye. You can't imagine how important this is for us. Tamara Petrovna smiled. Not for nothing, baby. I'm glad if I could help, and I'm sorry, Aleftina. She wasn't always like this. The disease changed her. We left the apartment and went down to the entrance. Pavel took out the phone and I dialed Sergei's number. After a few rings a man's voice answered. Hello, Sergei. This is Pavel Sokolov. This is Pavel Sokolov, son of Aleftina Sergeyevna. Your aunt Tamara Petrovna gave me your number. Yes. I'm listening to you. Something has happened, Sergei. I need to ask you a question. My mother recently asked you to sign some documents or signatures. Pause. Then I'm not sure I can discuss this on the phone. It's very important, Sergei. Talk to Idat about serious problems about forged documents that can destroy my marriage. Pause. Again. Okay, but I don't want to talk about it on the phone. Let's meet. I'm at home now. I can give you the address. Pavel wrote down the address and we got in the car. Expensive for Sergei. I thought about this whole situation. If my mother-in-law is really sick, if she really suffers from a paranoid disorder, then maybe Pavel is telling the truth. Maybe he really didn't intend to use fake documents. Maybe he really loves me and wants to save our marriage. But even if that is the case, the question of his infidelity remains. About the year of lies and betrayal, Sergei lived in a new neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. We went up to the 5th floor of a modern building and rang the doorbell. We were opened by a young man in his 30s with a creative appearance, slightly disheveled hair, thick, rimmed glasses, paint on his jeans. "Ah, you Pavel?" he asked. "Come in." We entered the apartment, which was minimally but tastefully furnished. There were paintings and drawings everywhere, obviously by the owner. "This is my wife Lisa and her friend Nastya," Pavel introduced us. Sergei nodded. "Have a seat." "Tea, coffee?" "No thanks." I decided to get straight to the point. "Sergei, do you know why we are here?" I guess he sat down across from us. "She asked me to fake Aleftina Sergeyevna." "That's right. Yes, we found documents with my fake signature in her apartment, a prenuptial agreement and an agreement on the division of property, documents that deprived me of everything during the divorce." Sergei sighed. "Yes. This is my job, but I didn't know that these were real documents. Aleftina Sergeyevna told me that this was for some kind of joke, that she wanted to make these boomerang and then laugh together. I didn't think that she would use them seriously." "And you believed in this story with a joke?" Pavel asked. "No, of course not, but she paid good money and I thought that if this is just a joke then it is okay, and if not it is not my problem." I felt anger growing inside. "Not your problem. You forged documents that could deprive me of all my property and say that this is not your problem." Sergei looked confused. I did not think about it. "So sorry." "And the letter?" Pavel asked. "You sent my wife an anonymous letter asking to look into my mother's apartment." Sergei frowned. "What letter?" "I didn't send anything. Someone sent me a letter advising me not to go to the anniversary celebration, but to look into my mother-in-law's apartment. Thanks to this letter, I found out about forged documents and plans of your mother and Pavel to put me out on the street." "I don't know anything about any letter." Sergei shook his head. "And I would never send something like that. Why do I need?" I believed that he didn't send the letter, but then who knew about the plans of my mother-in-law, who wanted to warn me? "When exactly Alexandra Sergeyevna ordered you to forge documents?" Pavel asked. Pavel asked. "About a month ago. She called, said that my aunt gave her my number, said that she needed help with a drawing. We met, she showed me samples of signatures, explained what to do. I did the job in a few days." "And you are not confused that she asks to do official documents?" Nastya asked, confused. "Of course. but she talked so convincingly about her joke how you will laugh together later, and she paid very well, 3 times more than my usual rate. I sighed. Another dead end. Sergei did not send the letter. Tamara Petrovna to Irina swore that she had nothing to do with it. Who then is Sergei? You can testify in court if necessary. Pavel asked to confirm that my mother ordered you to forge documents. Sergei turned pale. In court. But this is the same. This is a criminal offense. I can sit for this. Yes, you can. But if you cooperate with the investigation, admit guilt, the court may be more lenient, and without your certificate it will be very difficult for my wife to prove it. I do not know. I need to think about consulting a lawyer. Of course. Pavel nodded. But remember that my mother is ill. She has a paranoid personality disorder. Her actions are dictated by the illness. You were in your right mind when you agreed to forge documents. It was a smart move on the part of Pavel. He hinted that his mother will most likely not be punished. But Sergei will have to answer to the full extent of the law. I understand. Finally Sergei said, I will do it. Sergei finally said, I will testify if necessary. This was a mistake on my part. I should not have agreed to this regardless of the amount. We thanked him. We took his contact details and left the apartment. Now we had proof that the documents were forged. This was an important step, but the question about the letter was still open. What now? Nastya asked as we got into the car. I don't know. I answered honestly. We found out that the documents were fake. That my mother-in-law was sick and was acting under false pretenses. I still haven't decided what to do with our marriage. I looked at Pavel sitting there gripping the steering wheel tightly, looking straight ahead. In his eyes there was pain, remorse, fear. The man I loved for 5 years was now about to lose everything that was important to him, and part of me felt sorry for him, but the other part was still bleeding from his betrayal. Let's go to my mother. Pavel said suddenly. Maybe she knows who sent the letter, or maybe she sent it herself. Why would she warn me about her own plans? I don't know, I said, but my mother has been unpredictable lately. Maybe part of her wanted her plans to go wrong. Maybe deep down she knew she was doing something terrible. It's unlikely, but we had no other leads, so we went from your mother's to my mother-in-law's house. I thought about our future. Will I be able to trust Pavel again? Will I be able to forgive his infidelity? His lies? Will I be able to live with a man who once betrayed me? But on the other hand, 5 years of marriage, until the mother-in-law interfered with her plans. Until Pavel succumbed to temptation in the person of Irina, maybe there's a chance to fix everything. Start at the door of the mother-in-law's apartment. She looked pale and tired, but her eyes burned with a strange fire. Pavel, Lisa, what are you doing here? We came to talk. I don't know what you're talking about. What documents? What plans? Don't pretend. Mom, we all know about your illness. That you hired Sergei to forge Lisa's signatures, that you planned to use these documents to take everything from her during the divorce. My mother-in-law looked at me. She's the one who turned you against me with hatred. Yes, she always wanted to tear us apart, always wanted to take you away from me. No, Mom. It's your illness, says Lisa. Lisa never wanted to separate us. She loves me and I love her. We are a family. We are a family. The mother-in-law's voice became high, almost shrill. What kind of a family? 5 years together, and where are the grandchildren? Where is the continuation of the family? Your Lisa is infertile and selfish. Mom, stop. You're not yourself. You need to take medicine. Calm down. I looked at my mother-in-law and realized that she was really sick. Her eyes were feverish. Her hands were shaking. Her speech was confused, illogical. Her speech was confused, illogical. She really believed what she was saying, believed that I was the enemy, that I was trying to destroy her relationship with her son Alexandrina Sergeevna. I decided to try to talk to her calmly. We came to ask you something. You sent me an anonymous letter asking me to come to your apartment instead of celebrating the anniversary. My mother-in-law stared at me as if she didn't understand the question. Letter? What letter? Letter without a signature. Where was it written? Don't go to the 5th anniversary of your wedding, better go to your mother-in-law's apartment. My mother-in-law blinked. I didn't send any letters. And who could have sent them? Who knew about your plans? Who could have wanted to warn me? No one knew. Cut off my mother-in-law. It was my plan, only my Pavel didn't know anything until the last moment, and they told her Tamara wasn't there. Of course she wouldn't understand. She was always on your side, always saying, "How wonderful you are, how lucky Paul is with you." It was just another dead end. If my mother-in-law didn't tell anyone about her plans except Paul, and Paul claims that he only found out about it yesterday, then who could have sent a letter? But I remembered something. About a week ago I wrote down my plans in a diary. I always do that. It helps me to structure my thoughts. And it seemed to me that someone was in the apartment while I was gone. Nothing was missing, nothing changed, but there was a feeling that someone was here. And the diary was not lying. As I left it, diary, Pavel asked, "Do you keep a diary?" Yes, for many years I write down my thoughts, plans, observations. It helps me not to forget important things. And you wrote down your plans for forged documents and the divorce of Lisa and me. Yes, of course I write everything down there. Where is this diary? Mother-in-law hesitated. In the bedroom, in the drawer of the bedside table. Pavel went into the bedroom. We heard a noise. A moment later he returned with a small book in a dark cover. Is it him? Pavel asked, showing the diary to his mother. The mother-in-law nodded. Yes. Pavel opened the diary and began to leaf through it. Nastya and I came closer to see it, too. The notes were written in a neat handwriting, but the content was disturbing. She wrote about her suspicions that I was manipulating Pavel, that I wanted to take him away from her, that I refused to control his notes, became more and more paranoid with each page, and finally we found what we were looking for, a record from a month ago today. I called Sergei, Tamara's nephew, and arranged a meeting. He will help me. No one will suspect me with documents with forged signatures of this upstart, and when everything is ready I will show Pavel what she signed before the wedding. He will owe her nothing. She will be left with nothing and will finally leave our lives. This was the confirmation that the father. In it was a confirmation that the father-in-law had really planned the whole thing, that she had really hired Sergei to forge documents, that she really wanted to rob me of everything and throw me out on the street. But who could have read this diary? Who could have found out about her plans and decided to warn me? Who had access to her apartment in her absence? And suddenly the housekeeper came to mind, the housekeeper Aleftina Sergeevna. Her mother-in-law frowned. Yes, she comes once a week, cleans, sometimes cooks, and what's her name? Maria Ivanovna. She's been working for me for many years. She has access to the apartment when you're not there. Of course, she has a key. Sometimes I ask her to clean when I'm in the country. I exchanged glances with Pavel, who could have found out about your mother's plans and sent me a letter. But why should she warn you? I don't know. Maybe she's just a good person. Maybe she knows me, saw me here when he came to visit and didn't want your mother to treat me so unfairly. Do you have contacts with Maria Ivanovna? Nastya asked her mother-in-law. Of course, in my phone. But I won't let you disturb her. She's not in anything. We just want to talk to her, said Pavel, to find out if she really sent a letter to Lisa, and if so, I won't let you accuse Maria of anything. She's the only person who really cares about me, the only one who understands me. The mother-in-law started screaming and waving her hands. Her eyes were burning with a crazy fire. It was obvious that she was in a state of anger. Mom, calm down. Pavel tried to approach her, but she recoiled. No one is accusing Maria of anything. We just want to talk to her. No, leave, everyone leave my house. It was clear that it was pointless to continue the conversation. Inadequate. Okay Mom, we're leaving, but promise me that you will take the medicine they are giving me. That you will take the medicine they are in the bathroom on the shelf. You need to calm down. Mother-in-law did not answer, just stood panting, looking at us with hatred. We decided to leave, leaving her alone at the door. Pavel turned around. I will look at you tomorrow, Mom, check on you, and we will talk about treatment. You need help and I want. Just slammed the door behind us as soon as we left. What now? Nastya asked as we went downstairs. How do we find this Maria Ivanovna? I know her address, said Pavel. My mother once asked me to bring her groceries when she was sick. She lives not far from here. We can go there now. We got into the car and drove to the address Pavel had given us. I felt that we were close to solving the problem. If Maria Ivanovna had really sent me a letter, we would finally find out who you were trying to warn me about, and why Maria Ivanovna lived in an old panel house a few blocks from her mother-in-law. Pavel, what are you doing here? Alexandra Sergeyevna is not with my mother. Everything is fine. Maria Ivanovna, we have come to talk to you. This is my wife Lisa and her friend Nastya. Maria Ivanovna looked at me carefully. Pass. Do not stand on the threshold. We entered a small but cozy apartment. Maria Ivanovna led us into the living room, sat on the sofa. Tea was served. Maria Ivanovna, I have to ask you a direct question. You sent an anonymous letter to Lisa asking her to visit my mother's apartment instead of celebrating our anniversary. I obeyed, and there I found documents with forged signatures. Documents that Aleftina Sergeyevna had prepared to deprive me of all my property during the divorce. Maria Ivanovna lowered her eyes. I don't know what you're talking about, Maria Ivanovna. We know that my mother keeps a diary, said Pavel. And we know that she wrote down her plans in it by forging a document. And we also know that about a week ago she noticed that someone was in her apartment in her absence, and the diary was not lying where she left it. You have a key to her apartment. You could read this diary and find out about her plans. Maria Ivanovna was silent, looking at the floor. Finally she looked up. Yes, said she. Maria Ivanovna was silent, looking at the floor. Finally she looked up. Yes, she said quietly, I sent the letter. I felt as if everything was shrinking inside me. Finally we found out the truth. Why did you decide to warn me? Because it was wrong, Maria Ivanovna just replied. What Aleftina Sergeyevna was planning was unfair and cruel. I couldn't let her do it. But how did you find out about her plans? Pavel asked. I was cleaning her apartment as usual. She was at the dacha, and I happened to see the diary open on the table. I didn't want to read it, but my eyes fell on the lines about forging documents, about plans to rob Lisa of everything. I was shocked. I knew that Aleftina Sergeyevna didn't really like her daughter-in-law, but I didn't think that she would. Yes, I know. I didn't want it to happen to you, my girl. But why anonymously? Why not tell me directly? Maria Ivanovna sighed. I was afraid that Aleftina Sergeyevna would find out that I had warned you, that she would have fired me, and I need this job. I understood her concern. She risked her job, her financial well-being, to warn me about a strange woman whom she had seen only a few times when we visited her mother-in-law. I said sincerely, you have no idea how important your letter was to me. Without it I would never have found out about my mother-in-law's plans, about the forged documents. I could have been left with nothing. Maria Ivanovna smiled. Not for anything, the girl. I just did what I thought was right. I found the strength to confront my mother openly, and Maria Ivanovna, a simple housekeeper, decided to warn me, risking her job. We returned to the car in silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. Finally, Pavel broke the silence. What now, Lisa? What will happen to us? I looked at him, at the man I had lived with for 5 years, at the man who had been with another woman, at the man who hadn't found the strength to stand up to his mother and her crazy plans, but also at the man who probably really loved me and wanted to make things right. I don't know why. Too much has happened, too much has been ruined, your infidelity, your lies. I'm not sure I can forgive it. I'm sure I can forgive it. I understand. I'm sorry, but I want you to know that I really love you. I've always loved you, and what I did was the biggest mistake of my life. I was silent. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive him, to give us another chance, but the other part was screaming that trust was broken, that you can't go back to the way it was before. Make a decision now. I said finally I need time. Time to think things through. Time to see if I can trust you again. Pavel nodded. I understand. I'll give you as much time as you need, and I'll wait as long as it takes. We drove Nastya to her house. She hugged me goodbye and whispered in my ear, whatever you decide, I will support you. Just remember that you deserve to be happy. Then Pavel drove me to our house. It was strange to go back there after everything that happened yesterday. It was my home, my safe corner, and today everything has changed. Will you stay? Pavel asked as we walked up to the apartment. I shook my head. I'll take some things and go to Nastya's. I need some space to think about it. He nodded without trying to argue. I quickly packed what I needed and was about to leave when Pavel stopped me at the door. Lisa, I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know. I want you to know that I will fight for our marriage. I will fight for you. I will fight for our marriage. I will fight for you because you are the best thing that has ever happened in my life. I looked at him and there was such sincerity in his eyes, such pain that for a moment I almost believed him, almost forgave him, but the wounds were too fresh, the pain of betrayal was too strong. Goodbye, Pavel. I took a deep breath of the fresh evening air. For the first time in those 2 crazy days I felt a strange calm. I knew the truth. I knew who I was, what I deserved, and even though the future was unclear, I knew I could handle whatever lay ahead. I was ready to face it with open eyes and an open heart. 1 year later I was sitting in the same cafe where I had met Irina. It was spring outside. The city was drowning in apple blossom. The city had changed a lot. The last year 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 had changed a lot. Last year has changed a lot. I went home to live with Nastya, then rented a small apartment. Pavel tried to contact me, called, wrote, came to Nastya, but I was not ready for a conversation. I was not ready for forgiveness. A month later I filed for divorce without scandals, without mutual accusations, just admitted that our marriage did not work. The apartment was sold. The money was divided equally. The condition worsened so much that Pavel I had to put him in the specialized section. The diagnosis was confirmed, paranoid. I didn't see Irina anymore. I heard from mutual friends that she changed her job, moved to another city, started a new life just like me, and I gradually put myself back together. Learned to live alone, to trust people, to believe in myself, found a new job, new friends, started going on dates. Although no one has ever touched my heart the way Pavel once did, and today I received a message from him for the first time in several years. From him, for the first time in several months, he wrote that he wanted to meet, talk, that there were things he needed to tell me, and I agreed, not because I still loved him, Not because I was hoping for a reunion, but because I wanted to end this story, close this chapter, and move on. The door to the cafe opened and Pavel walked in. He had changed that year, losing weight, becoming more serious, more mature. He said as he sat down across from me, "Thank you for agreeing to meet me." I smiled. Maybe I've thought a lot this year. I've understood a lot about myself, about life, about people like too. He paused. "Lisa, I didn't call you here to ask for a second try, not to dredge up the past. I just wanted to tell you that you were right when you decided. You were right not to forgive me. I didn't deserve your forgiveness." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I've been in therapy, a lot of therapy. I've come to terms with myself, my actions, my relationship with my mother, and I've realized how much I can't change the past. And I want you to know that I'm truly sorry for what I did. And I'm grateful to you for the 5 years that we were together." I felt a lump rise in my throat, not because of old feelings, not because of unfulfilled hopes, but because of the understanding that we have both grown, both changed, that the pain we hurt each other was not in vain. She taught me. "Thank you, Pavel. It means a lot to me." We sat in a cafe for several hours, talking, not like an ex-spouse, but like two people who have gone through a difficult path and found themselves on it. He talked about his work, about his mother who was getting better thanks to the treatment. I talked about my new life, about plans, about dreams, and when we said goodbye at the exit of the cafe, I didn't feel any pain or regret, just gratitude that everything turned out the way it did, for the letter that changed my life, for the truth that I learned, for the strength that I found within myself. "Goodbye, Pavel." I left the cafe and walked down the street bathed in the spring sun. There was a whole life ahead of me, a new life that I chose for myself, and I was ready for it, ready for new challenges, new joys, new love, ready to be happy. But fate decided otherwise. 2 months after our meeting with Pavel, when I almost completely let go of Pavel, Tamara Petrovna, her voice trembling with excitement, "Liza, my girl, you must come. Aleftina Sergeyevna is in the hospital in a serious condition. The doctors say she doesn't have much time left. She asks you to come. She says she has something to tell you before she leaves." I'm frozen with the phone in my hand. The mother-in-law who tried to ruin my life is dying and wants to see me. Wants to tell me something. My first impulse was to refuse. What do I care? I was in so much pain. Trying to rob me of everything. I didn't need to go to her deathbed, but something inside me whispered that I should go. I should hear what she had to say. I should give her a chance to go in peace, and myself a chance to free myself completely from this story. "Okay, Tamara Petrovna. I will come today." The hospital itself met me with sterile cleanliness. I could hardly recognize her. The disease and old age had turned the once formidable woman into a fragile, defenseless old woman. She was lying on the bed, tangled up in tubes and wires. Her face was pale and haggard, and her eyes were on fire. Those that burned with an evil fire now looked tired and as if guilty. Pavel was sitting next to the bed when I came in. I saw a mixture of surprise and gratitude. I saw a mixture of surprise and gratitude in his eyes. My mother-in-law barely turned her head in my direction. Her lips trembled in a faint smile. "Lisa." Her voice was barely audible. "You came." "Yes, Aleftina Sergeyevna." Tamara Petrovna said that you wanted to see me, that you wanted to tell me something. My mother-in-law nodded and stretched out. My mother-in-law nodded and stretched out her hand to me. The hand that once forged my signature on the documents that were going to rob me of everything. I hesitated, but then I took her hand in mine anyway. It was cold, light, almost weightless. Laura whispered, "I'm sorry for everything I've done, for all the pain I've caused." I was silent. I didn't know what to say. It's easy to ask for forgiveness on your deathbed. It's easy to repent when you have an eternity ahead of you. But forgiveness has to be earned, and what has this woman done to earn my forgiveness? I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. My mother-in-law continued, as if she was reading my mind. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what caused you so much pain, but I want you to know it wasn't me. It wasn't the real me. It was a disease. It distorted my mind, my thoughts, my feelings, made me see enemies where there were none, made me defend myself against threats that only existed in my head. I listened to it. I felt conflicting emotions fighting inside of me. Part of me wanted to believe it, wanted to. Part of me remembered the pain, remembered the betrayal, remembered how close I came to losing everything. I think the disease was always there. My mother-in-law was always a little strange, suspicious. But before I could control it, I could distinguish real threats from imaginary ones, and then everything started to get worse, especially after your wedding. She fell silent, caught her breath. I waited patiently, still holding her hand. He was my only child, my treasure, the meaning of my life, and when he brought you home, when I saw the way he looked at you, how happy I was with you. A part of me was him, but a different, sick part saw you as a threat, as an enemy who would take my son away from me. You could have asked for help, I said. You could have told me your fears, your suspicions, but instead you chose to destroy me. Yes. She lowered her eyes. And that is my greatest sin, a sin I will take with me, but I want you to know that I am sorry for every second of the pain I have caused you. And I don't ask you to forget or forgive me. I just want you to know that it wasn't me, it wasn't the real me. I looked at this broken woman on her bed and I felt that something was changing inside of her, not forgiveness. No, not forgiveness yet, but understanding. Understanding that she too was a victim of her illness, her fears, her loneliness. I accept your apology, Aleftina Sergeyevna. A faint smile touched her lips. Thank you, Lisa, you are better than I deserve. She turned her head to Paul. Don't repeat my mistakes. Don't let your fear and pride destroy your life. If you love someone, then fight for your love. If you've made a mistake, admit it and fix it. Don't wait until the very end, like I did, to say what I should have said long ago. Pavel nodded and squeezed her other hand, tears glistening in his eyes. Alexandra Sergeyevna, she turned back to me. You've been a good wife to my son, Lisa, better than he deserves. And I'll never forgive myself. But I want you to know that I've always secretly admired your strength. I secretly admired your strength, your honesty, your love. I was just too sick, too scared to admit it. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Never once in all the years we've known each other my mother-in-law never said those words to me, never acknowledged me. She didn't express her approval, and now on her deathbed she finally said what I so wanted to hear. What could have made so much difference, be said in time. Thank you, I whispered, squeezing her hand. We sat a little longer. My mother-in-law began to get tired, her eyes closed. The nurse looked around the room and made a sign that it was time for us to leave. I stood up, carefully releasing my mother-in-law's hand. Goodbye, Aleftina Sergeyevna. I said. I'll remember you. She smiled faintly without opening her eyes. Goodbye, Lisa. Be happy. Both be happy. I left the ward. Pavel followed me out into the corridor. We stopped, not knowing what to say to each other. Thank you for coming. Finally Pavel said. This means a lot to her and to me. I nodded. I'm glad I came. I'm glad I heard her. Lisa. Pavel took a step towards me. What my mother said about fighting for love, about admitting mistakes. I thought about it a lot over the last year and I realized I would never go back. He didn't fight for us. He never tried to make up for his mistakes. He just let you go, because I felt like I didn't deserve a second chance. I looked at him, at the man I once loved more than anything in the world, at the man who caused me so much pain, and I felt something long forgotten come alive inside me, not the same hope that maybe all is not lost, that maybe there is a chance for something new. I don't know, Pavel, I honestly said. I don't know if we can start again. Too much has happened, too much has changed. We are not the same people who were married 5 years ago. I know, he nodded. He said, I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not asking you to forget everything that happened. I'm just asking for a chance. A chance to show you that I've changed, that I've understood my mistakes, that I'm ready to fight for us if you want it even a little bit. I wondered if I wanted this one more chance. I can't promise anything, Pavel, I finally said. I can't say that something is possible between us, but I can give you a chance to show that you've changed, a chance for friendship, and then we'll see. His face light up with hope. That's more than I could ask for. Thank you, Lisa. We exchanged numbers. I changed mine. We agreed to meet, not just a date, just a friendly meeting, to talk, to get to know each other again, to understand if we have a future or if we will remain forever just chapters of each other, only chapters from each other's past. Alexandra Sergeyevna died 3 days later. Peacefully in a dream I came to the funeral. I stood next to Pavel when the coffin was lowered. There was pain in his eyes. He knew that his mother had found peace. He knew that she had gone in peace, having said what she had to say. And after the funeral, Pavel and I began to see each other, first once a week. Then more often. We talked about everything, about work, about friends, about books, about movies, about everything except our past. We both tacitly agreed that we would first have to get to know each other anew, who we are now, after all we have been through, and only then decide whether it makes sense to return to what was. And it worked gradually, step by step. We were building something new, not restoring the ruins of the past, and we were building a new house on a clean foundation, with new knowledge, with new understanding, with new wisdom that we both gained through pain and trials. I do not know what lies ahead. I do not know if we will become a family again or just good friends, but I do know one thing. The letter I received a year ago changed my life. It gave me the truth. It hurt me but made me stronger. It took away my past but opened the way to the future, and for that I will always be grateful. When Pavel invited me to dinner to celebrate the anniversary of our first meeting. During that year our relationship went from mistrust and pain to mutual respect. I hoped for something more. We took our time, gave each other space and time, but gradually we got closer. The restaurant was the same one where we once celebrated our anniversary before everything collapsed. But this time it was different. We both changed, became wiser, learned to appreciate what we have. It was Pavel who waited for me at the entrance with a bouquet of my favorite lilies. We sat down at a table, ordered wine, and began to talk about work, about plans, about dreams, about how we had changed this year, about what we had learned and understood. He smiled, noticing my concern. This is not an engagement ring, not a proposal, it's just a gift. He opened the box. Inside was a heart-shaped locket. Open it, he suggested. I opened the locket. Inside was a miniature photo of Pavel and me from our previous life, smiling happily, and on the back was the inscription engraved on the side. "Knew it's a symbol," Pavel explained, "a symbol of what we have been through, what we are going through, and what may lie ahead. Not to return to the past but the creation of a new future based on the lessons of the past but not in its shadow." I looked at the locket and felt tears welling up in my eyes, not tears of pain or regret but tears of hope. The hope that sometimes you can get a second chance, that sometimes you can start all over again, that sometimes you can create something new, something better out of the wreckage of the past. "Thank you," I said, putting on the locket. "It's beautiful like you." Pavel smiled at Lisa. Pavel smiled. Lisa, I know that we have been through hell. I know that I have caused this year has shown me that we can create something new, something better, not a repeat of the past but a new path. I want to walk that path with you if you are ready. I looked at him, at the person I once loved, lost, and now I may have found again the person I once loved, and now I have found again, changed, grown up, realized my mistakes. A man who fought for me, for us without hesitation. A man who fought for me, for us, without giving up, even when it seemed like all was lost. I want that too, Pavel replied. I want to try not to go back to the past and create something new, something better together. He took my hand, raised it to his lips, and in that moment I realized that the story that began with that anonymous letter wasn't over yet. It was continuing to turn into something new, and I was grateful for every turn, for every page, even the most painful, because they brought me here, to this moment, to this person, to a new beginning, and who knows what lies ahead. Maybe in a year we will be living together in a new house, planning a future together. Maybe we will get married again, already aware of each other's strengths and weaknesses, and maybe we will understand that it is better for us to remain friends, keeping warm feelings. I don't know, and this scares and excites me at the same time, but one thing I know for sure is that I am no longer afraid of the truth. Now I know that I can survive all this and become stronger. I can fall and rise. I can lose everything and start again, and for that I will always be grateful to that anonymous letter that told me, do not go to your 5th wedding anniversary, but go to my mother-in-law's. Pavel and I left the restaurant holding hands and walked through the city at night. There was an unknown ahead of us, but I was no longer afraid of it because I knew that no matter what happened I would get through it. We would get through it together or separately, because happiness is not the absence of problems and trials. Happiness is the ability to overcome them and remain yourself. Keep your heart open, your soul free, your love sincere. And now I knew this for sure. I knew it thanks to that letter that changed my life, a letter that said, do not go to the 5th anniversary of your wedding, rather look in your mother-in-law's apartment. And I looked not only in the apartment, but also in the dark corners of the human soul, in the secrets of human relationships, in the depths of my own heart. And what I saw there changed me forever, for the better, definitely for the better.